Good morning, Boston. Okay, my friends, this is an absolutely incredible story. I mean, we are now clearly descending into third world banana republic-like status. There's just no question about it. There really isn't. President Trump yesterday announced on Truth Social that on Sunday night, after he returned from a major conference, Turning Point Action Conference, in which in a straw poll, he beat all of the other Republican candidates with 85.7% support. Basically 86% support. Absolutely annihilated everybody else in the field. With him now holding a commanding 40-point lead over second place challenger Ron DeSantis, and now with almost every major poll, including a recent Suffolk University poll right here in Boston, a recent Harvard poll, saying that Trump beats Joe Biden, some say by 6 points nationally, others say 8, even 10 points nationally. So here you have the number one presidential candidate, former president, who not just is blowing away the Republican field in a head-to-head matchup, absolutely trounces Joe Biden in almost every single major poll. And yet, Joe Biden's own FBI, own corrupt Department of Justice, and that vile special counsel, Jack Smith, now are going after him, not just on classified documents. No. That's not enough. Now they want to go after him, arrest him, and indict him over January 6th. Listen now to President Trump saying after he came back from the Turning Points USA summit, in which he won far and away the straw poll in a dominating fashion, the polls putting him even higher than ever before against Joe Biden. Guess what? On that very same day, he got a target letter from special counsel Jack Smith, Biden's Department of Justice, saying you've got 4 days, that's it, to appear in front of a grand jury investigating January 6th, and that most likely now he is going to be arrested. He is going to be indicted. Some people are saying could even be as early as this Friday, 2 days from today. And they are now clearly weaponizing the entire FBI, DOJ, our entire Department of Justice, in order to put Trump behind bars so he cannot run in 2024. Listen now to Trump saying, never has this happened in the history of the United States, and it is now another very dark, sad day in America. Roll cut 3, Mike.
Never been done like this in the history of our country, and it's a disgrace.
It's a complete disgrace. This is beyond a disgrace. And what's scary about all of this, and again, the liberals are popping champagne corks. These people are sick. I'm telling you right now, they're sick. They're sick, they're twisted, they're deranged, they're demented, and they are asking for trouble. I'm telling you, they are really asking for trouble. I have never seen something so irresponsible and reckless in my entire life. It is now becoming the norm in America that political opponents are being thrown in jail. Jailing political opponents in America, let me repeat this, is now becoming the norm. I mean, this is, they are destroying, you want to talk about democracy under siege. They are destroying our republic. They're destroying our democracy right in front of our eyes. Listen now to President Trump saying, every time I surge in the polls, every time I start doing better and better and better, they throw indictment after indictment after indictment against me. Roll cut 3A, Mike.
And it seems that every time my polls, we're leading by a lot. And we're leading by a lot in a place called Iowa. A lot. And not only with the Republicans, but we're leading against Biden by a tremendous amount. They haven't seen anything like it. And they feel, I guess, they want to try and demean and diminish and frighten people, but they don't frighten us because we're going to make America great again. That's all there is.
He's defiant. God bless him. He's going to fight this thing to the absolute end. But let me tell you, our republic is clearly hanging by a thread. Let's not mince words. This is a dagger aimed at our very republic, at our very freedoms, at our very democracy. And what you're watching right now is, without question, a communist criminal cabal. That's what this is. Looking now to jail, imprison, and wipe out their political opposition. And we are now doing what other countries around the world do on a routine basis. We have no more moral authority to lecture other countries about how they treat their political dissidents or they treat their leading political rivals. Because putting political rivals in jail is what they do in third world banana republics. And that's exactly what we're doing here. What is Jack Smith going to go after Trump on? It appears now from leaks coming, and by the way, all these leaks are illegal. Again, it's crime after crime after crime, but they can't stop leaking. They're leaking like a sieve because they're foaming at the mouth because they want to desperately put this man in chains. They want to frog march him and they want to put him behind bars. So now they're saying that Trump spearheaded and masterminded, I swear to you, a quote unquote seditious conspiracy. And for seditious conspiracy, it's not enough they want to put him in jail over Alvin Bragg and the hush money payment. It's not enough they don't want to put him in jail over retaining classified information, which he had every right to do, but let that go. No, now they want to put him in jail for the rest of his life for allegedly spearheading and orchestrating a seditious conspiracy, quote unquote. And so what Jack Smith's going to argue is that Trump was responsible for the riot that took place on Capitol Hill, that this was Trump's fault, and that he tried to lead a coup against the American government. Now, I'm telling you that they're going for either to put him behind bars for the rest of his entire life, or they want to put a lethal injection in the guy. So they are going now for Trump's head. There's no backing down on this whatsoever on their part. Now, they realize if they don't take him out, Trump will be the next president of the United States. It's clear now. They can't prop up this puppet in the White House much longer. His presidency is collapsing and imploding. The guy has been an absolute disaster. And that in a head-to-head matchup between Biden and Trump, every poll, it's not even close. And in the Republican primary, it's a cakewalk. So, how do you beat him? You put him in jail. And now the war on President Trump and, frankly, his entire movement, the war on America, continues. Yesterday, President Trump announced, incredibly, remarkably, he got another letter, a target letter from Special Counsel Jack Smith. This is from Biden's Department of Justice, saying that he is now the target of the January 6th investigation. And as many law experts have come out and said, Trump himself, it is now imminent. He will be arrested. He will be charged, indicted again. This time, it appears, Jack Smith is going to get him for seditious conspiracy. I swear to you that Trump was the mastermind of January 6th, that Trump was responsible for January 6th, and that this was an attempted coup, a coup. upon the American government, and that now Donald Trump will spend the rest of his days in jail. If not, technically conspiracy, seditious conspiracy, could technically even get you the death penalty. I mean, the libs would love that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they'd love to just shoot him on the spot. Who are we kidding? But, I don't think it's going to go that far, but they want him now in jail forever. That's it. They want him behind bars. If they could torture him, if they could mutilate him, if they could skin him alive, they would. This is beyond bullcrap. I'm telling you right now. This is a joke of an indictment. This is a joke of an investigation. Everybody knows it. We're talking now about criminalizing political differences. That's what this is. So now they have to put him behind bars. There is no evidence that he urged anyone in the crowd to go into the Capitol, that he planned it, that he masterminded it. Even the January 6th Select Committee said we couldn't find any direct evidence or links that Trump had told the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers or anybody else, breach the Capitol, storm the Capitol. All they have is the speech that he gave at the Ellipse. Now, I don't want to go on about peacefully and patriotically protest. I don't want to go and repeat what he said on Twitter over and over again. Get away from the Capitol. You have to be peaceful. Do not go home. Don't breach the Capitol. Or he kept saying it again on Twitter over and over. Stop. We respect law enforcement. Don't do this. Okay? Forget all of that. His entire speech at the Ellipse is protected under the First Amendment. So, by this standard, Bernie Sanders should be in handcuffs right now over the shooting of the baseball field where Republican members of Congress were shot at and Steve Scalise was nearly killed. So, by this standard, Bernie should be rotting in jail. If now we're going to try to tie a speech to something that politically happened, an alleged crime that took place, if you're going to try to link it to a political speech, you got a lot of politicians now that should be put in jail for speeches that they've given. So they're trying now to criminalize speech. Trump gives a speech on the Ellipse, and all of a sudden now, he's the head of some kind of a seditious conspiracy? The only appropriate response to this imminent indictment is the one given by Marjorie Taylor Greene, as far as I'm concerned. How much time left, Mike? Okay, I'm going to play it on the other side. Bullcrap. I can't say what she said on the air because I'd be fined. But bullcrap. You know what she really said, okay? This is this entire indictment. Frankly, this is the Biden administration. And this is the Democratic media. It's all bull, you know what, BS. Now, my prediction, the American people are sick of this. They're sick of it. Even you liberals must be understanding that this is such overkill that I believe it's going to make Trump even stronger in the polls. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the news broke yesterday. It is now the biggest story in the world. President Trump on the verge of being indicted again. This time over January 6th. He got the target letter. He now must appear in front of a grand jury. He's only been given 4 days. They say the indictment now, the arrest of Trump, the indictment over January 6th, which is separate from the indictment that he's already facing over classified documents, could happen as early as this Friday. Marjorie Taylor Greene, to me, summed it up perfectly. When she found out about the indictment of Trump, the upcoming indictment, here's her response. Roll cut 10. Mike.
Yeah, it's absolute Yeah, that's my reaction. This is the only way that the Democrats have to beat President Trump is to arrest him, smear him, charge him with ridiculous charges, all in a cover-up of Joe Biden's crimes, Hunter Biden's crimes. It's unbelievable. It's hard to even recognize that this is our country. The American people are going to be furious. And what Jack Smith is doing is the weaponized government. And he's weaponizing the Department of Justice against President Trump in a complete lie about President Trump and January 6th. And it's outrageous. I can't believe our country has to endure this. And I'll be standing with President Trump the entire way.
This is absolute bullcrap. I can't say what she said, BS, but, that's as far as I can go. This is serious third world bullcrap. That's what this is. And she's right. The American people are furious. Sandy and I were just talking about this off air. They're playing with violence now. They really are. If you keep trying to take the number one political candidate out of the running by putting that person in jail, by jailing your political opponent, you are going to start forcing people to behave in violent ways. Normal people are going to start to take to the streets. They are playing with serious, serious fire. And if you're going to go after political leaders and put them behind bars, and to me, no one is above the law, there's no question about that. You go after real serious crimes. You go after, embezzlement, bribery, pay to play, corruption, treason. I could go on and on. You don't go after this nonsense. Shoehorning a hush payment or alleged hush payment, the campaign finance violations, which has never been done ever. And everybody admits if it wasn't Trump, Alvin Bragg would never have brought those charges against any other person. Or this ridiculous Espionage Act claim regarding classified documents that the president has every right to take with him and that other presidents have taken and many have not given back. Obama has over 1,000 classified documents that were requested, and they're still sitting in his freaking basement or in his in the basement in his library project. I could go on and on. This is serious, hardcore BS. And now this over. So how many people have been thrown in gulags? How many hundreds and hundreds of January 6 protesters are rotting in jail for years and years and years? And the only people that died that day were Trump supporters. The most prominent one being Ashley Babbitt. And yet now you want to put him in jail for the rest of his life on seditious conspiracy? You're freaking insane. You're crazy. No, why don't you admit it? His policies are so damn effective and so damn popular. And he was so good as commander-in-chief. So now you only have one choice left. And that's to start jailing him and his supporters. Listen now. I want to play one more cut, then I want to go right to the blazing phone lines. I'm not a big fan of his, but I got to say on this one, I think he pretty much hit the nail on the head. Listen now to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy upon hearing of the Trump target letter. Roll cut 9. Mike.
If you noticed recently, President Trump went up in the polls and was actually surpassing President Biden for re-election. So what do they do now? Weaponize government to go after their number one opponent. It's time and time again. I think the American public is tired of this. They want to see equal justice, and the idea that they utilize this to go after those who politically disagree with them is wrong.
It's more than wrong. It's criminal. It's tyrannical. It's dictatorial. You're the House Speaker. What are you doing? Where are the Republicans? There should be an immediate response on their part. Immediate. Boom. The moment this target letter was announced, we impeach Garland. We impeach Chris Wray. We're going to defund Jack Smith. We're impeaching Biden. You want to play? Let's play. Instead, it's wrong. It's wrong. I mean, he's right. Every time he goes up in the polls, they hit him with an indictment. And the American people want one standard of justice. And after everything now we know about Joe and Hunter Biden and the favoritism that they've been given and how they've been given immunity and immunity and immunity and immunity, and now they're going after Trump on this garbage? Only one side will be left standing when all of this is said and done. Right now, I'm calling on every single Republican presidential candidate, drop out of the race. Drop out of the race for the good of the country. Drop out of the race. And make a united front saying, if you're going to put this man in jail, we're going to stand behind him all the way. Then put all of us in jail. And now one side will stand for the good of the country. Either we stand or they fall. But if they can pull this off, I'm telling you, no one is safe. Don't think for a second, Ron DeSantis, you're safe. Don't think Tim Scott, you're safe. Don't think Nikki Haley, you're safe. Don't think you're safe. Vivek Ramaswamy, no one is safe. We better stop this because we will not have a country left. And to the Democrats and the liberals, hey, look, man, I'm just warning you. Okay? I'm warning you. I don't want war. You know nothing about me. I covered the war in Yugoslavia. I saw what happened to my ancestors. I saw what happened to family members. The most vicious, vile thing you can ever see is a civil war. I wish it on no country or no people. We've already had one already. That was you. You Democrats, that was your war. Be clear. Democrats were the party of secession. You were the party of slavery. You were the party of the Confederacy. Just to be crystal clear historically. And now you want to start playing these kind of games? Take away our right to pick the presidential candidate that we want? If Trump is 1/100th as bad as you say he is, then it should be a cakewalk in 2024. You can put up Mickey Mouse and beat him. But you know Biden can't beat him. You know no one else can beat him. You know that his America First agenda works, that his policies are successful, his policies are popular, his policies are what America wants and what America needs. 617-266-6868 is the number. Rob in the great state of Oregon. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Well, hi, Jeff. It's not a great state. It's a liberal sewer. But as you may recall, I've been traveling the nation for the past almost 3 months now. Triggers are getting ready to be pulled out here, and I haven't been able to take the pulse of the conservative people and the Christian people and the non-commies. I've taken that pulse for a couple of weeks now. 2 weeks ago, I pulled into Cody, Wyoming, and there was a parade of people with signs and people with horses, and maybe half of the people had sidearms on their belts, all calling for the defunding of Planned Parenthood. As I spent a couple of weeks in Wyoming, I learned that these folks are not willing at all to yield to this BS that's being slung around now. What was released yesterday and today about the the coming arrest of the president, I'm sure is being met with great high blood pressure in Wyoming and Montana. Here in Oregon, they're openly celebrating this. I fear that there's a lot of people getting ready to pull triggers. But
Rob, I got to tell you, no, Rob. I mean, look, here's the thing, and you're right. The libs are popping champagne corks. They love this. They've exposed themselves now, once and for all. The argument is now settled. It really is. They are totalitarian thugs. They are communist, fascist thugs who, when pressed up against the wall, painted into a corner, want to jail and imprison their political opponents. So it's now, this debate is now over. What's, to me, clear, and this is why I'm urging everybody, I know it's very upsetting, I'm extremely upset, but they're doing this out of fear. They're doing this, ironically, it's out of weakness. I mean, I know they control the levers of power for now. But the only reason why they're doing this is because Trump is way ahead in the polls. Rob, we're looking now, I think, 90 to 100 million. I mean, we outnumber them by 30, 35 million across the country. They're panicking. So I think people are very upset, but why people are holding back is because they go, well, we're just waiting for this election. And they're just hoping that Trump can stay out of jail until the election. Because it's going to be the mother of all tidal waves. So I don't think libs realize, and then I'm telling you, Rob, I know, I always used to believe you respect your opponents. This is America. You don't throw your political opponents in jail. You don't do that. But after what the left has now done to us, the way they've persecuted us, the way they've imprisoned us, the way they've censored us, the way they've vilified us, the way they've branded us, led by Biden, as enemies of the people and enemies of the state. When Trump says this is going to be revenge and retribution when he gets back to power, amen, brother. Amen. Joe Biden now must rot in jail. Hunter Biden must rot in jail. Hillary Clinton must rot in jail. Christopher Wray, James Comey, they must all, Merrick Garland, but I want Jack Smith in jail. That SOB thinks he can abuse his power like this? Who does he think he is? Stretching statutes, making up things as you go along to try to frame a man and put him behind bars and destroy him and his family and remove the people's choice to be the next president of the United States and using the fig leaf of the law to do it? No. They've got to pay a monster price for this. The mother of all price for this. They have to. So they never even think of doing something like this again. So, look, the DOJ's got to get cleaned out. The FBI's got to get cleaned out. The deep state's got to get cleaned out. Enough is enough. So it's up to them now. But they're playing a very dangerous game. Rob, thank you very much for that call. So anyway, look, that's the silver lining in all this. You know, they don't put you in jail if they're strong. They put you in jail if they fear you. And they fear him, but above all, they fear us. That's why they're doing this. Remember, they're not after him. They're after us. He's just in the way. Larry in Leominster. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Jeff. So I was telling Mike on the phone, 30 years ago, a movie came out called Groundhog Day with Bill Murray.
Yes.
This is Groundhog Day, political version. Just here we go again. Same thing. Now, yesterday you were talking about what they're trying to do to tarnish RFK Jr. Think about this, though. It's all psychological. For 7 years now, they've been telling us how evil Trump is. So naturally, he has to be doing illegal stuff. And that's why you get the Bens and you get the Bills, saying, oh, he's definitely guilty, this and that. To them, it's like fodder. They think, oh, look, they just found more evidence while ignoring their guy. And it's just, it's nonstop because no one believes the government anymore. The faith in our government, faith in the FBI, faith in the DOJ is at historic lows. And it's because like you said, they are so fearful of him and fearful of us. They've gotten so desperate. They're hanging themselves by, creating that effect that whatever they say, the majority of the country says, no, the opposite has to be true. You've got your sycophants and you've got your, media pravda. But the most of us are going, every time they come up with something new, you don't believe it.
I agree, Larry. No, I have to say something has changed in the country. It reminds me, again, I don't want to keep overdoing this, but it's just the only analogy I can keep thinking of. It reminds me of, the late stages of communism in Eastern Europe. And when my parents would take me back to their country, to their home country, their ancestral country, and they'd say, look, we want you to see what life was like here, why we left, and why you were born in Canada, why you were given a life in Canada. And nobody believed anything the government said. All my family members that I spoke to or friends or whoever, even if it was true, they didn't believe it. Like, I'll just give you an example. A lot of the communist propaganda in the 80s said there's a lot of crime in American inner cities. And I would be like, well, no, that's true. And they're like, no, that's not true. No, really, a stop clock is right twice a day. No, on that's true. No, they just wouldn't believe it. Whatever they said, they just wouldn't believe. Because that's how much trust and confidence they lost in their government after being lied to and manipulated and lied to and manipulated. And so this is what's happening now. So I know the libs love it, but what they don't see, this is what they don't get. They're not going to be in power forever. I know they want to be. I know they think they will be. That's their arrogance, but they're not. And all of the precedents that they have now established are going to be used against them. And believe me, they don't want to be on the receiving end. So, Larry, my prediction, unless they can somehow rig a trial, and the reason why, by the way, Jack Smith is pushing seditious conspiracy, because they want to say he's a traitor and he's a terrorist. And if you're a traitor or a terrorist, they can invoke certain clauses and an emergency to say someone like him can never be allowed into the White House. Because it would be akin to Osama bin Laden. I'm just making up an example. Osama bin Laden being president of the United States. So that's why now they've come up with this ridiculous indictment or imminent indictment that he masterminded January 6th, that he sought to overthrow the government, launch a coup, launch a seditious conspiracy. The American people will not stand for this. And if by some miracle they do pull this off, you're going to see another Republican, say, take a DeSantis, who's going to say, I will pardon him the day I get elected, and we are going to go after everybody who was involved in this persecution of this innocent man. So what they don't realize is that the American people are going to rise up and they're going to overthrow this regime. We are not going to put up with this much longer. And they are going to get wiped out in 2024. Wiped out. If the Republicans were smart, they wouldn't run from Trump. They would embrace Trump. Because you want to talk about a red wave? Holy shamoly. Holy shamoly. Larry, I am climbing. I'm going to crawl on broken glass if I have to vote for him. And I know there are tens of millions of people like me. That's in a democracy or in a democratic republic, to be more accurate, that's an unstoppable force.
Yeah, well, like you were saying, when this is said and done, it's going to have to end up like a version of The Hague here, where they put all these people who have been doing this behind the scenes, all the deep staters and such, on public trial. It's got to be so, once the dust settles, the convictions, the sentences of all these people needs to be so brutal, they won't ever think of trying this again.
I'm so with you. I am so with you. Larry, as always, thank you very much for that call. Therese in New Hampshire, thanks for holding, Therese, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. I am known as the nurse up here in Concord, New Hampshire, that was arrested for uttering the word amen. And, of course, this strikes near and dear to me, hearing what's happening to Trump. But the grassroots conservative group up here, we did a challenge yesterday on social media. What can we actually do right here, right now, that's not violent? We've seen what happens when we collectively come together against, like, Budweiser, or, you know, we collectively all go see The Sound of Freedom. When we come together, we actually have a voice. And, you know, simple things like, as of today, we've all decided we're not using our debit cards. We're going to use cash as much as we possibly can. But my challenge to your audience is, you know, if we can take a stand with actual action items, solutions right here, right now, I want everyone to put on their creative thinking caps and start to brainstorm what we can do to make this as hard as possible for them to continue to do the wrong thing. We've got to start taking a stand now. We've got to link arms for liberty. And, you know, all of my charges were null processed after 20 months and 6 hearings, but it only happened, that null process only happened because I had an army of people who were going to absolutely obliterate anyone that took the witness stand against me in the public square. Like, how dare you arrest the nurse for uttering the word amen? So if we come together, we can make it really uncomfortable for them to continue to destroy this republic. But we got to find some creative ways to do it, that we don't end up, you know, getting ourselves into any sort of trouble. So a peaceful...
Well, Therese, you're dead on. Look, you're right. It's got to be peaceful, nonviolent, but it's got to be something that really defies the regime. And I'm telling you, this is the silver bullet. If everybody would just do this, we're going to win. I'm telling you right now, we're going to win. Okay, no matter what, we're going to win. There's just too many of us now. They're so overplaying their hand. They have no idea. They just have no idea now, the sleeping giant that they've awakened. I'm telling you. But let that go for a second. We have to shame them. This is the silver bullet. Really, it's really that simple. Live not by lies, as Solzhenitsyn said. Just speak the truth. Just speak the truth. To your friends, to your family members, to your colleagues, on social media, it doesn't matter. Shame them now for supporting Biden. You support Biden, you're supporting a dictator. Period. Full stop. That's it. That's the conversation now. No, we don't jail political opponents in the United States of America. We don't do that. I'm sorry. That's Cuba. That's Venezuela. That's communist China. You say you hate Putin's Russia. There's no difference now between us and Putin's Russia. This is back in the USSR, like the Beatles song. That's what this is. So we have to now embarrass the libs. We have to shame them. And if all of us do this, they're not going to be popping champagne corks anymore in public. They're going to be ashamed to do it. In other words, there has to now be a moral price for them to pay. A social moral price. You want to be a bloodthirsty thug? Then we're going to shame you. So the days of where it's chic and cool to hate Trump and to have Trump derangement syndrome, it's over. It's over. So that's what we have to do. We have to come out of the closet. It's not enough now for us to be in our little groups, which is fine, don't get me wrong, but to be in our little groups and to talk to one another and whisper to each other and, are you voting for Trump? Yes. Are you? Yes. No. We have to be loud and we have to be proud and we have to be defiant. And it's a very simple argument. Joe Biden is an authoritarian thug. He is a dictator, period. You put your number one opponent in jail, you are a dictator, period. You support him, you support a dictatorship, period. How dare you? How dare you? And they're going to start now to be on their heels. If we're not on offense, we're on defense. We got to start taking the offense. So I'm telling you, Therese, we have to have a whole new mindset. We have to come out and shame them. We have to grab the moral high ground. And it's going to work because deep down they know what we're saying is true. When you have the truth, it is the most powerful weapon in the world. But it's only good if you use it, if you speak it. If you don't speak it, forget it. We have to now speak it. Publicly, everywhere, unabashedly, unashamedly.
Everyone write a letter to the editor. Everyone post something on their town community pages. Get out of your echo chamber and take a stand. We had someone attack us that we had an appeal to heaven flag, and that was seen in a protest for a pride parade. So now they disparaged our grassroots conservative group as now being Nazis. I'm going to the police department today. I have the person's name, where they posted it on social media, and saying, I want to file a police report that this is a hate crime. They're the ones that are being the bigots. They're calling me a conservative Christian mom who has an interracial family, is anything but that. You can't throw those names at us without us now checking you back, right? That's not okay. We've got to take a stand. We've been and that's not my mindset, right? But yet, if it was roles reversed, they would be all over us. We've got to start taking a stronger stand in the public square that the grassroots conservatives are not this, we're not that, and in fact, what you are doing is not okay, and we're not giving you permission to weaponize our courts, our police, our state troopers, our sheriffs, our government. It's got to stop, and we've got to take a stand with tangible action items. We're all talking about it, but there's not enough. Like, everyone write a letter to the editor, your local newspapers today. If they get bombarded with 50,000 letters to the editor, I mean, we have got to start doing something to get our voices heard. We have to start speaking out in whatever way is most convenient or most comfortable for you, or you feel most at ease doing. I don't care if it's on Facebook. I don't care if it's on Twitter. I don't care where it is. If it's a letter to the editor, you're completely right. If it's just at work or whatever, it's just enough is enough. They have to be shamed. That's it, period. We need to start shaming these people, embarrassing them, humiliating them. I'm not saying you throw a pie in their face. No, just say, you're supporting what? So you're supporting a dictatorship? So what, you think political opponents should be put in jail? Are you serious? And you call yourself an American? We have to now take the moral high ground and speak out against this disgusting abuse of power. Because if we don't, we're never going to get our country back. Our republic is hanging by a thread. And if we lose in 2024, it's gone. It's gone. And we're going to stay silent? No way. Therese, great call. Okay, listen now to Professor Jonathan Turley at George Washington University on Fox News saying Trump receiving that target letter from Jack Smith. It's now almost inevitable. He will be now arrested and indicted over January 6th. Roll cut 13, Mike.
This is a step that usually will come towards the end of an investigation. When you receive these types of letters, it often gives your client the opportunity to appear in a grand jury. They are never a welcomed thing to receive. Usually a target letter is before you receive an indictment. That's not necessarily the case, but it's viewed that way by most criminal defense attorneys. These letters often tell the target that they need to preserve evidence, that they need to look at counsel, and that they have a set period of time where they can appear before the grand jury.
So, in other words, you're most likely going to be indicted. As Trump rightly said yesterday on Truth Social, his lawyers have told him, get ready. He's only got 4 days to appear before the grand jury, and then he will be indicted. So, could be even this Friday, by the end of this week. Listen now to Turley saying, here's the problem. The only way they can try to get Trump, because they have no other evidence that he masterminded or orchestrated or planned the breach of the Capitol, is if they say it was his speech at the Ellipse, where he said peacefully, patriotically, go and protest. He goes, if they do that, then they're assaulting the First Amendment itself. In other words, to get Trump in jail, they have to shred and destroy the First Amendment, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. Roll cut 13A, Mike.
The concern here is that the special counsel could be proceeding on a case that might be constitutionally challenged. If the case is built around Trump's speech on the ellipsis on January 6th, I don't believe that it could withstand judicial review. The question is, does Smith have something else, something that's a direct link to a conspiracy or effort to cause violence? We haven't seen that. I mean, the January 6th committee in Congress came up with nothing as a direct nexus to that type of evidence.
They don't have any evidence. That's what they're making up crimes, and they're trying to make up evidence to fit the made-up crimes. It's all manufactured. It's a hit job. You want to talk about an assault on democracy, or let's quote the Washington Post, democracy dies in darkness? This is it. This is it. 617-266-6868. John in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'd like to say amen to you, too, if that's what the girl said that she got arrested for. I dare him to come and arrest me. Come to Dunstable. You'll get blessed. But anyways, Jeff, we're at war with the Chicons, and we're at war with our own government. Larry kind of hit on what I was going to say. Notice how it's against the Geneva Convention to make biological and chemical weapons, and our government was involved in making them. And I believe personally, Jeff, that our government was involved in releasing them to tank the economy and to get rid of Trump. And I really think if people don't go out into the streets and, as you say, peacefully protest now, it's all over, Jeff. What they're doing to President Trump is such a disgrace, and people are letting this happen. I mean, there are small protests going on here and there, but it's not large enough. It's not large enough. We should be, and I will leave my job. I'm an independent trucker. I will stop and go wherever we need to go. And we need boots on the ground to stop this nonsense, or this country is going down the toilet. Amen.
Thank you very much for that call, John. I really, really appreciate it. No, I think, honestly, look, everybody, let's be honest. We're just waiting now for November 2024. It's like the election of 1860. I mean, it's one of these pivotal elections, or whatever, 1932 or 1968 or 1980, or there's these elections that will transform and change the history of our country. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, these are just a couple of quick thoughts, and then I want to go right back to the phone lines. One of the collateral damage, or one of the consequences, side consequences, and the collateral damage of these indictments of Trump is, I think it's robbed us of a Republican primary. And I say this, as you know, as a Trump supporter. I backed him from the beginning, and I like other candidates. Don't get me wrong. Some of them I like a lot. Some of them are really impressing me, but I'm a Trump guy. You know that. But now with the Bragg indictment, and then the federal indictment, the Jack Smith indictment over the classified documents, and now this imminent indictment over January 6th, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. What it does now is, it's like, well, I have to defend the Republic. I have to defend the rule of law. I have to stand up for the principle of democracy. And I'm going to really rally behind Trump. So what's happening is now people are just so locked into defending Trump. That's why he's running away with it now. I've never seen a primary like this ever. 86% at Turning Point USA. He won the straw poll, 86%. He's up by 40 points over DeSantis, who, whatever you think about him, and let's give the man his due. Very impressive governor of Florida, formidable political candidate. I mean, the guy is, you want to talk about somebody who's a future star in the Republican Party. It's him. And Trump is blowing him out of the water. And a lot of it has to do with people are saying, no, I'm going to stand with Trump now in opposition to the regime as a statement of principle now. So people now aren't even debating who can be the better president or vice president. Or now everyone is locked in. We're going to back Trump no matter what. Let's get through these primaries as quickly as possible, and then the big showdown in November 2024. I mean, you can just tell that's what people's mindsets are. And that's why a lot of people are saying, well, Jeff, where are the protests? Because people kind of feel like almost just there's no point. We have the majority. We know they're persecuting him. We know they're going after him. We know now they're jailing their political opponents. We know what this is all about. This is a fundamental assault on the First Amendment, on our Constitution, on our democratic republic. So we all now know what the stakes are. And so we're giving democracy one last chance. And frankly, we know we have the numbers. We know, and that's what I said earlier. I said, look, why do you think they're going after him? If this guy was going down, if Biden was killing him in the polls, and Trump was barely treading water, you think they'd indict the guy? They go, no. Let's just destroy him and discredit him once and for all. That's why now they need to put him behind bars. So what it shows is the regime is afraid. The regime is insecure. The regime is in deep trouble. So the more they lash out at him, the more they try to indict him, the more you hammer it, the more you hammer it, the more you hammer it, the stronger it gets. That's what you're seeing now with Trump. So I want to ask all of you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. Do you think this prosecution of Trump, and really we use prosecution in the poll question, it's really persecution. Let's not kid ourselves. Do you think this prosecution/persecution of Trump would end if Trump would no longer be a candidate for president in 2024? If Trump decided not to run, or if Trump said from the beginning, years ago, after 2020, I'm done. Nah, it was fun 4 years. Hasta la vista. I'm going to enjoy my wife, Mar-a-Lago, my kids. I'm going to enjoy my billionaire lifestyle. Do you think Alvin Bragg would have gone after him? Do you think Jack Smith would have gone after him? You think the Biden DOJ would be, fooling around with this stuff? No. My opinion, no. If Trump were not a candidate, none of this would be happening, which shows to you they're not real crimes. Which shows to you, to me, it's purely political. It's to take him out. But that's me. I want to hear from you. Yes or no. Would they continue to persecute Trump if he were not a candidate for president in 2024? I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner. Also on Twitter, if you prefer, our handle there, at the Kuhner Report, one word. Carrie in West Bridgewater. Thanks for holding, Carrie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Carrie.
You know, Jeff, I was, listening to you and you're talking about shaming the communist Democrats. In theory, I agree with you. The problem with that is, in order to feel shame, you have to have a conscience. And remember, the socialist, Democrat, communists, they don't have a conscience. This is the party of third trimester abortion. This is the party of child mutilation. This is the party that supports open borders, which facilitates human trafficking and child trafficking. They have no conscience. I think what needs to happen, people keep talking about protesting and boots on the ground. All that's going to do is get your picture in the hands of the local FBI, and the next thing you know, you're going to be audited or have your life destroyed in some way. What I think we need to do, and I implore everyone who is hearing the sound of my voice, you need to get really involved. Go to your local town, Republican town committee. Get involved. Volunteer. There are more of us than there are of these ghouls in the Democrat Party. I firmly believe that there are more patriotic Americans, but protesting, holding flags in front of your house, that's going to do nothing. Nothing. We need action. The reason the Democrats are able to mobilize as well as they do is because they have that hive mind. That's how they think. It's groupthink, and they're very comfortable in that realm. Republicans tend to be independent thinkers, and we just don't have that hive mind. I think it's time we maybe adopt some of that hive mind mentality. We need to get involved. If you don't know how to find your Republican town committee, ask your grandchildren, ask your kids to, show you on Google how to find your local Republican town committee. Get involved. You don't have to run for office, but you can certainly start supporting local Republican candidates. Make phone calls, hold signs, do something tangible. Screaming at the TV is just not going to do it anymore. We've got to act.
Oh, I agree. No, and I think you touched on a very deep point, Carrie, which is, you're right. The Democrats have a hive mind, and that's because they're collectivists. At their core, they're statists, they're communists, they're collectivists, they're Marxists. We're very much individualists. And that's a great strength. It's a beautiful thing, because you're right. We're independent. We're critical thinking. We believe in freedom, personal freedom, individual liberty, right to, free speech, free religious liberty, free expression, free press. But there is a negative to that, or there's a downside to that, which is we don't organize very well. because we're all so individualistic. We've got to start organizing. We've got to start working together. We've got to start getting very, very active. My only point is this, Carrie. We have to start letting them know that we're no longer going to be intimidated. We're no longer going to be bullied. We're no longer going to cower. We're no longer going to be cowed. They're trying to shame us. What they're doing here, in a nutshell, here's what they're doing. They're now going to go for branding Trump as a terrorist. That's their play now. This is what January 6th is about. They're going to trying to get him on seditious conspiracy. So he's a seditionist, traitor, and a terrorist. And by extension, if he's a terrorist, anyone who supports him is a terrorist. You see? So you, me, all of us, we're all terrorists. That's their play. So it is to break us. And we have to stand up and shame them. We have to speak out and say, no, 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 no. You are the dictators. You are the totalitarian thugs. 617-266-6868 is the number. So he's been indicted by Alvin Bragg. He's been indicted by Jack Smith on classified documents. And now, apparently, Jack Smith's people have now told Trump's lawyers he will be arrested and indicted over January 6th. And then the prosecutor in Georgia says that she plans in August to indict Trump. So the strategy is clear. Bury Trump under an avalanche of indictments, hoping that one of them sticks. There's a term for that. It's called fascism. 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are on fire. Bill in Sudbury. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning, Jeff. Beautiful day out here. I actually think that what you're recommending for Mr. Trump is a guaranteed crushing defeat in the general election. I know you love the idea of him coming out on the entitlement platform, but that's a guaranteed loser. To come out and say, you owe me.
I have no idea what you're saying. No, Bill, I'm not saying, I didn't say that. I never once said you owe me. What I said is, and let's be clear, we will never be the same again as a country. It is now becoming the norm under the Democrats, under the man you voted for, Joe Biden, to start jailing political opponents. And we will never be the same again. That stone has now been cracked.
That's true.
And what I'm saying is,
has to happen.
Hold on. What I'm saying is, many people are now going to back Trump. They may not even think he's personally the best candidate on the stage, but to stand in solidarity with democracy, to stand in solidarity with the rule of law, to stand in solidarity against the authoritarian assault of this regime.
But you live in a fantasy world. You are pretending that Mr. Trump was going to come out and make some half-hearted attempt to explain it all, and he was never going to do that. He was going to hide under his desk and rely on past support. Literally what he is saying right now is, I was so mistreated by America that you owe me another term. You owe it to me because I'm such a victim.
Yeah,
that
he's
is
never
a
said
guaranteed
that.
law.
You want to talk about a fantasy? That's a fantasy that you're peddling. I don't know what planet you're on.
That's exactly what you're saying.
I haven't said that.
That's
People heard exactly what I've said. Bill, you can call me from your insane asylum all you want. I didn't say that. I just explained to you what I said. Now, here are the facts. The fact is, this is a witch hunt. Every poll has Trump not just winning the nomination by a country mile, but crushing Joe Biden. Your guy is going down in a landslide. Every poll now shows that. And what's your reaction? What's the reaction of you, your supporters, this corrupt, vile, criminal Department of Justice? Remove him by putting him in jail. So now we target and imprison political opponents. And you're telling me that's a good thing?
Point to the polls and say, look, I'm entitled. I shouldn't have to fight. I shouldn't have to debate Chris Christie about the actual facts. It's
okay,
mine.
first of all,
It's
whoa,
mine.
look. Forget the debates. because Joe Biden doesn't want to debate RFK. Your guy is so effing senile, okay? He's so soft in the head. He's petrified of a 1-hour debate with RFK Jr. because this guy doesn't even know what planet he's on. That's how bad it is. So don't lecture me about whether Trump should debate people or not. The fact of the matter is, this is not about Trump's debate or the nomination. He is now going to be arrested and indicted over nothing. Over nothing. And you stand here and say, he's the bad guy? So this is how you Democrats roll now? You jail your political opponents? This is no different than communist China, no different than Putin's Russia. And that's what you, Bill, voted for. And you still, in the face of all of this thuggery and all of this authoritarianism, you still defend it? Shame on you. Shame on you.
Everybody is crooked except for you. You're Jesus and the other guy is the devil. This is the cartoon version of the world that you...
Right. No, Joe Biden is the devil. That's what you call people who sell their country down the river. They're traitors.
I don't know.
They're traitors. Let me ask you this, Billy, let me ask you this. What are you guys so afraid of? You guys don't even want him. I mean, so what? He's not the front runner now? He's not leading in all the polls, Billy? No? Who's leading in the polls? So he's crushing the Republican field, and he's beating Biden by 8 to 10 points. And this is CBS, NBC, Harvard, Suffolk. I can run down the whole list. And by the way, and Biden is telling everybody the election's in the bag. He just said at the NATO summit, you're going to see me for another 5 years. He's the one that says, I don't even need to campaign. He didn't campaign in 2020. He's not going to campaign now. But I don't care about all this. I don't want to get lost in your crazy world. My argument to you is very simple. Why do you feel the need to put this man behind bars? Why can't you just beat him in an election? All the polls show Trump is going to win. So what do you guys do? You put him in jail. That's called a dictatorship, Bill. That's what you support. So I'm going to tell you to your face, you are a communist thug. And for your information, now Trump is more popular than ever. So keep indicting him because he's going to get 100 million votes. Because the one thing Americans can't stand are authoritarian dictators like you and your president. We don't believe in throwing our opponents in jail. I know you commies like it. I know you get off on this, Bill. But we're not North Korea yet. We're not communist China yet. You guys are trying to make it. But we're going to fight you every step of the way.
Asa Hutchinson, for example, just put out a statement saying that the former president should suspend his presidential campaign in light of receiving a target letter. Is there any reason why he should?
There's no legal reason why he should, and there might not be a political reason. Each of these indictments seems to give him a boost in the polls. I mean, this is fulfilling his narrative that there's a weaponization of the criminal justice system.
Of course it's a weaponization of the criminal justice system. That's why every indictment he gets stronger and stronger and stronger. But notice, he can't bill. Of course the guy hangs up. He always hangs up. You know, if Trump's point is this is a witch hunt, it is. Trump says they're weaponizing the criminal justice system to destroy me. True. They want to put me behind bars. True. So it's obvious you don't want to face off against him in an election. Because, you know, if you do, your guy is going to go down in flames. And by the way, he keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So keep indicting the guy. If Biden was as 1/10 as good as all of you claimed, and Trump was 1/10 as bad as all of you claimed, then Biden should win in a cakewalk. Instead, your very actions prove you fear him because you fear us. And you fear us because we are the heart and soul of this country. We are the overwhelming majority. And the silent majority now is no longer silent. So if you notice, when I confronted Billy in Sudbury, Bolshevik Bill in Sudbury, why do you have to keep jailing your political opponents? He couldn't respond. Because deep down, David Horowitz on this is completely right. Deep down, they want to jail their opponents. That's what they're all about now. This is no longer the Democrat Party of the United States. This is now the Communist Democrat Party of the United States. And what do good little commies do? They imprison their opponents. They crush all dissent and all opposition. It's very simple. You don't like Trump? Fine. Defeat him in an election. Instead, you want to do the very opposite. 617-266-6868 is the number. Brad in Brookline. Thanks for holding, Brad, and welcome.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Brad.
Yeah. Because of your ancestry and you being a historian, you ever remember reading about the Sergei Kirov assassination?
Yes, the mayor of Leningrad, who was very popular, so popular Stalin had him killed.
Yes, but Stalin didn't only have him killed; he had him. He had the people he thought he should get rid of blamed for his death. And the January 6th thing, I mean, come on, they opened the doors, they, removed the barricades. You have Ray Epps saying, let's go into the Capitol, let's go into the Capitol. I mean, this is, to me, reminiscent of the Kirov assassination.
Oh, that's a really, really good analogy. Wow, that's good. That's sophisticated stuff. And Brad, don't forget, you're right, but don't forget, where Jack Smith can't get around this one insurmountable obstacle. 3 days before, what did Trump do? He requested 10 to 20,000 National Guard troops. We have it on paper. So if this guy wanted to breach the Capitol, why the hell was he insisting and pushing and asking for 10,000 National Guard troops? And it was Pelosi and the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, who said, "Niet. No." So, look, they have no evidence. What he wants to put this in front of a Washington, D.C. jury and say, you all hate Trump, right? Trump is evil, right? Okay, get him on seditious conspiracy. Forget the evidence. I want him in jail for a year, for the rest of his life. And then from that, we can go after his entire movement. He can't run. And then we'll go after every single MAGA person who supports him and his America First movement. Brad, that's what this is all about. Let's not kid ourselves. They're after you. They're after me. So they've got to put him behind bars to then come after us. I mean, Brad, am I wrong?
But this is, in my suspicious historical analogy mind, I figured they're doing political tactic to Stalin, and they're going to govern as Mao does. I mean, Mao, part of the reason he had those 50, 60 million people killed in the Great Leap Forward is because he needed to make grain so he could pay for the, he could pay for those weapons from the Soviet Union. Now these guys, the Democratic Party, they feel, well, they have to pay back their supporters in some way. The Moonbat environmentalists with their carbon credits and stuff, the EV people and all this other nonsense. And this is going to cost American lives, I feel, and maybe in the millions. Hysterical, huh?
No. I don't think it's hysterical at all. Look, Kamala Harris at a recent speech when she was talking about climate change let the cat out of the bag. She openly said our goal is ultimately to reduce the population. Reduce the population of the United States, reduce the population of the world by billions and billions and billions of people. It's the Great Reset. And so, I mean, the vice president said it out loud. So everybody knows what this is. It's like, again, you're talking about the old Soviet Union or former communist Eastern Europe. They're framing a dissident. That's what this is. He's too popular. Let's use another one, Lech Walesa. He's just too popular. The people love him too much. And the regime now, they got to fabricate evidence against him and fabricate crimes. You know, as Stalin's henchman, since Brad, you're an historical buff like me, as Stalin's henchman, Lavrenti Beria, famously said, he headed the NKVD, the precursor to the KGB. And he told Stalin, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. In other words, we can make up a crime against anybody. Don't worry. We can put anybody we want in jail. And now you're witnessing it right here in America. Brad, thank you very much for that call. Joanne in Weymouth, thanks for holding, Joanne, and welcome.
Good morning, Professor Kuhner. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Joanne?
Oh, I'm a little tired because I'm an RN and I work off shifts, but I happen to be home. I'm not feeling well, and it's my day off anyway. So here I am talking to you in the morning.
What's on your mind, Joanne?
I wanted to say hello to the Concord RN and let her know that the Massachusetts RNs are also supportive. And we have been for a number of years. I started speaking to you when I lived in New Hampshire, and I was working in New Hampshire at a private psychiatric hospital. I lived in Sandown, New Hampshire, where President Trump drove by and went to our town hall and had a town hall meeting in 2016, I believe.
Joanne, as a Trump supporter, as a Trump voter, what do you make of this, the shocking news? In a way, it wasn't shocking. We knew it was coming, but still, every time it happens, it's just so jolting and jarring that now they're going to arrest him and indict him, this time apparently on seditious conspiracy. This is what Jack Smith's people are leaking to the media, so I can only go by the leaks. They're going to put him now, they want to put him in jail for the rest of his life. They're going to brand him as an insurrectionist, as a seditionist, as a traitor, as a terrorist. And they're going to invoke a clause in the Constitution to claim that you cannot have a seditionist and a terrorist as commander-in-chief. So what do you make of the fact now that they now want to put Trump behind bars for the rest of his life?
People should wake up and realize if they can do it to President Trump, a former president, they can do it to anybody. And they do. They've done it to the Concord RN, Mom. They've done it to other RNs that I know. There are RNs that I know that have been murdered. There are people all over the place that are conservative that feel the pain of the progressive left.
Well, that's the thing, Joanne, is that we've seen the last 3 years how utterly intolerant and vicious the left has become. And they don't care about norms. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the rule of law. They have the power, and they want to wield it to smash and destroy their opponents. And Trump is Exhibit A. But you're right, there are so many others. We are now being persecuted. We are now being harassed. We are now being targeted. And they fully weaponized the entire Justice Department, the FBI, to come after us. We're going to put him behind bars. Blank you. You like that? Okay, then we'll put up somebody else, and then we'll put him behind bars. Now, that's a one-party state. And that's what the Democrats ultimately want. You really want to know what they want? It's all laid out now for us. A one-party police state. They want one-party Democrat rule. One of the points that Jonathan Turley has been making, a professor from George Washington University, and frankly many others, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, is what you're seeing now from Jack Smith, from the corrupt Biden regime, from the Department of Justice, is they're making Trump's point. Every indictment now that they keep issuing against him, they're making his argument, which is this is a witch hunt. It's clearly now a witch hunt. There's no getting around this fact. So they keep throwing charge after charge after charge after charge. And he says, yeah, they're out to get me. And they're like, yeah, they are out to get you. Of course they're out to get you. And so, you know, and that's why it's like, that's why he keeps. So when he comes out and says they've weaponized the Department of Justice and the criminal justice system in order to try to put me behind bars in one of the biggest, if not the greatest political witch hunt in American history, everyone's like, yeah. Yep. And they just keep giving him fresh evidence after fresh evidence after fresh evidence. Listen now. This is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on This is CNN with Jake Tapper. And he ran circles around Jake Tapper on the imminent Trump indictment. Roll cut 11, Mike.
This country is going down the road of criminalizing political differences, and I think that's wrong. Alvin Bragg stretched a statute in Manhattan to be able to try to target Donald Trump. Most people, even people on the left, acknowledge if that wasn't Trump, that case would not have likely been brought against a normal civilian. And so you have a situation where the Department of Justice, FBI, have been weaponized against people they don't like. And the number one example of that happened to be against Donald Trump with the Russia collusion. That was not a legitimate investigation. That was being done to try to drive Trump out of office. And so what I've said as president, my job is to restore a single standard of justice, to end weaponization of these agencies.
And he says he's going to start by cleaning out the DOJ, should he become president, and firing Christopher Wray. Now, whatever you think of DeSantis, he's dead on. There is no single standard of justice. Equality under the law, that's long gone. We now live in a two-tier justice system. If you're a Biden, or if you're tied to the Democratic Party, or frankly to the swamp, you can do anything you want. Anything. Commit any crime. No matter how egregious. No matter how destructive. No matter how outrageous. But if you're a Trump or you're one of his supporters, they will manufacture, they will make up crimes in order to get you. Now, listen to DeSantis, because now Jake Tapper's, he's about to get, he's getting a hissy fit. He's clutching his pearls. You mean Jack Smith? He shouldn't indict him? How come he couldn't indict him? He's got to indict him. This is outrageous. Listen now to Ron DeSantis. Roll cut 11A, Mike.
Are you saying that if he finds evidence of criminality, he should not charge Donald Trump anyway?
What I'm saying is, when you're going after somebody on the other side of the political spectrum, if you're stretching statutes to try to criminalize maybe political disagreements, that is wrong. Now, look, this is all speculation, but I think we've gone down the road in this country of trying to criminalize differences in politics rather than saying, okay, you don't like somebody, then defeat them rather than trying to use the justice system.
That's the old America. That's what DeSantis is talking about. That's the pre-Biden America. That's the old America. That's the constitutional republic. And if you lose, you try again. You have 2 years for the midterms, 4 years for a presidential election. But in a totalitarian mindset, in the world of authoritarian socialism, and that's what the left has become now, they all become authoritarians. No. You criminalize political differences. You win, you win. You lose, you jail the other guy. That's what we're seeing now. Now, this is the mark of fascism. It's the mark of communism. It's not the mark of a free society in a free country. In a free society and in a free country, you lose, you lose. Now, what they're doing with Trump is very obvious. They hate his policies. They hate his America First agenda because they're all globalists, and they can't stand his patriotic agenda that he will put America and Americans first. And so we're going to put him in jail. And that takes care of that issue. Now, with Ron DeSantis, they've already said once they put Trump away, they're going to put him in jail. So they're already saying, next, we get rid of him. Okay, next guy. Next, we put that guy in jail. So the world that DeSantis is talking about is starting to vanish. 617-266-6868 is the number. David in Brookline. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff, from deep, deep in the People's Republic. And we are grateful, especially myself, that the signal from Radio Free Kuhner is coming through 5 by 5.
Thank you, David.
Jeff, before I make my point, can I just address Bill from Sudbury?
Yes, please, go ahead.
It goes back to yesterday's point. Jeff, would you agree that Sudbury is a nice town?
Yes, very nice. I've driven through it many times. I have some friends that live there. It's a very nice town.
Beautiful. A beautiful area. Even the small homes are very desirable compared to a lot of places. I challenge Bill to call us next week and to put his illegal alien roommate on the phone to say hello to us so he can show us the true nature of his liberalism, what a great person he is.
How compassionate he really is, huh?
My main point is this, and I've said it before. In 2009, I said that President Obama would turn back race relations in our country by 50 years. But I'm going to take it further, taking into account everything that's going on. These people and whoever, the globalists behind them, Obama is the front person, they are turn back relations between all people, maybe 200 years, meaning I had a few liberal friends, very liberal people in some of those communities that you referenced yesterday, Newton and Wellesley. I really did. I find it extremely difficult to talk with them. And that's what this is doing. And lastly, Jeff, they pretended for 4 years that his policies weren't popular, and they pretended like he wasn't being... Have you ever seen anybody vilified and attacked unfairly with no justification like him? That is fantasy land. And what I'm afraid, Jeff, again, not to sound like a conspiratorial person, but what choice do we have, is what are they prepared to do next? What are they prepared to do? I mean, I know that so many of your listeners sit back and think about what has happened since President Trump came down that escalator. You wouldn't be able to believe it. They already impeached the guy twice. They've indicted him on ridiculous Twilight Zone charges. I mean, how many people do they need to gaslight? So that's it. I mean, yeah, we're all infuriated. Maybe 100 million voters, Jeff, as you said. But what are they prepared to do next to keep the foot on our necks? Because Obama, this is my opinion, Obama knew that when he had the chance, he didn't finish the job. I don't know if they're going to make that same mistake twice.
Well, this is their move. I mean, in terms of the fundamental transformation of America, this is their move. They're making their move. And look at the precedent now they've established. You can lash out at your political enemies. You can use the deep state, the criminal justice system, to jail your opponents, to censor conservatives, to suppress him, to destroy him, to persecute him. I mean, just look at what they're doing. I mean, they're destroying our Constitution and our Bill of Rights right in front of our eyes. Now, of course, it's not over. Where there's a lot of resistance and there's a lot of blowback and a lot of pushback. But, I got to say, all the Republicans yesterday, I mean, they need to fight more. They need to fight a lot more. But when they said, so is this how it's going to be? You just keep jailing people from the other side because you don't like their political views? Policy-wise, you can't beat them on the merits? So now it's just we keep jailing other people? Like, is this now the new America? Because I got news for them. Yes, what are they prepared to do next? But what are we prepared to do next? And I think they're fundamentally miscalculating. They keep thinking that, they haven't been violent yet. They haven't been violent yet. They haven't been violent yet. Don't keep poking the bear. You keep putting people in jail and you keep crushing dissent in this country. The blowback is eventually going to be massive. So, you play with fire, you're going to get burned. So if I were them, back off. But the problem now is they can't. They're all in. They've exposed themselves. They've unmasked themselves. They've revealed themselves. We know what and who they are. And now it's all about power and control. And they have so much wealth and so much power and so much privilege at stake, they don't want to give it up. They know that if the sheriff comes back to Washington, this time, this swamp is getting drained and drained good. And they're not going to allow that to happen. And they don't care what they're willing to do in order to stop them. And what they don't understand is the more they put the boot on our neck, the more angry people get. So I'm just calling it the way I see it. And that's why many, many Republicans are very nervous. They're like, do these idiots know that? Do they understand the forces that they're about to unleash? Even Turley made a brilliant point yesterday. You're going to go after Trump with no evidence? And you're going to claim that the speech on January 6th, you're going to go after him on seditious conspiracy regarding that speech? I mean, ay. So now we're going to criminalize speech? They can't handle him and they can't handle us. Because they know they're corrupt. They know all these politicians are on the take. They know the system is broken. And so now they realize we got a problem. The peasants are in a rebellion. The peasants say we want our country back. 617-266-6868. As always, thank you for that call, David. And, to show you what a joke all of this is, the regime, everything. This is the CNN roundtable, okay, with John King and Dana Bash. And this is the kind of pathetic propaganda you get in unfree countries and unfree societies. Now, listen to this. They're trying to build Jack Smith up as some kind of a tough guy. Oh, hey, he's going to indict him a second time. Jackie boy, So, how is Jack Smith a real tough guy? Listen to this. I mean, this is the stuff that I'm telling you would make the KGB blush. The old Stasi guys would say, oh my God, please, you're embarrassing us. Like this, even by our standards, this is really pathetic. Listen to this. Roll cut 12, Mike.
Jack Smith going to Subway today is a message to Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump tries to intimidate people. He tries to bully people. He tries to scare you away. That was Jack Smith with no words and a simple $5 sub in his hand saying, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, the imagery was intentional and spoke volumes. It really is.
He goes and buys a $5 sandwich at Subway? And I was like, he's not messing around. He won't be bullied. It won't be intimidated. He's showing Trump. He means business. Well, you mean he got a $5 sandwich? By the way, the sandwiches at Subway suck, okay? If no one else has the guts to say it, I'm going to say it. I haven't eaten there in years. Oh, my God. Oh, you like the meatball subs, Mike? Really? I mean, I used to go for a turkey sandwich or a ham sandwich. The bread I wouldn't feed to the seagulls. I'm telling you, the bread, and no taste. I go, how the hell do you put all this food on a sandwich? There's no taste. Anyway, so what? He got extra meat on his sandwich? Huh? He's gonna really show. I mean, I got extra turkey. Ooh, pathetic. So Trump yesterday gets a target letter from Jack Smith, the special counsel. Now he's being told, or his lawyers more specifically have been told, he will most likely be indicted and arrested within the next couple of days over January 6th. It appears from media reports that Jack Smith wants to get him for apparently seditious conspiracy. They're going to claim that President Trump masterminded January 6th, that he sought to implement a coup and prevent Biden from becoming president of the United States, and that this is not only sedition, insurrection, but it is a form of terrorism. And by arguing this and indicting him on these charges, they want to not only put Trump in jail for the rest of his life. So let me ask you a double-barreled question. One, is Trump guilty for January 6th? Do you believe it was a seditious conspiracy, an insurrection? And is Trump solely and primarily responsible? And B, do you believe he can still win in 2024? Or with all of these indictments, with all of these prosecutions, is it just a bridge too far? 617-266-6868. Do you now fear we are on the verge of losing our country and our republic? Jim in Florida. Thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome.
Hey, hold on a second. I got to take you off speakerphone somehow. I'm in the golf course right now.
Jim, is everything we got you, Jim?
Yeah, you got me. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Jim, we can barely hear you.
Hang on. How about now?
Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so I don't think it's the Democrats, and I don't think we have a chance. I think it's the sponsored, controlled media. I think the sponsor, the media is controlling everything. It's not just controlling the media, the sponsors, but they're also controlling the politicians. And and who is the media? Who is the media? The China. They own everything. Everything that's out there, everything we want to buy is owned by China. And so they're controlling everything. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's how foolish are we to believe anything that you hear on MSNBC? I mean, it's crazy what they said. Well, it's like looking in the mirror and telling you that that's not you you're looking at. So I don't think we have a chance. We don't own the media is off on another world, and we're just going for a ride. And a lot of people believe it. It was crazy. So
well, Jim, to me, what's really becoming, I think, quite obvious is, I don't know why, but especially with this indictment, something has snapped. And I feel it inside of me. I know tens and tens of millions of people have reacted this way in the last 24 hours. Many Americans, and I agree with them. I really do. But many Americans have become convinced, and I'm with them. Our greatest threat now, China is a very serious threat. Please don't get me wrong. But our greatest threat is now internal. You look at Vladimir Putin, you look at many of our enemies abroad or many of our rivals abroad, and they do not pose a threat to us the way our own government does now. The greatest threat Americans now face to our freedoms, to our liberty, to the rule of law, to our future, to our standard of living, to our cherished freedoms, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, it comes from our own government. The Democrats now have become a greater enemy to our freedom and our liberty than even any other external power. And honestly, that even includes China. Bad as they are. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you, Jim. They control both parties in many ways. They control the media. They control much of our economy. There's no question. We are being taken over slowly by China. But, I look at, who's taken away our rights? It's all coming now from the FBI, the DOJ, the Biden regime. Who's destroying our First Amendment? They are. Who's destroying our Second Amendment? They are. Who's hollowed out our economy? They have. Many of you are making the point, CNN is so out of touch, there is no $5 sandwich at Subway anymore. That this was pre-Biden. Look, it's so bad. Jim, I don't want to give you the story of my life. My car broke down. It's gone. It's finished. It's totaled. Okay, it just doesn't work anymore. So I've been trying to look for a used car, pre-owned car. I can't believe the prices. It's now $35,000 for a used car? And I'm not shopping around for a Mercedes or a BMW. I'm talking a Honda Accord. I'm telling you, ordinary cars. And it's $28,000, $30,000, $34,000, $35,000. Our standard of living is going right down the toilet. And if you want to know the Biden years, it has been a war on the middle and working class. Inflation is devouring everything. So who's impoverishing us? It's this regime. Who's taking away our fundamental rights and freedoms? It's this regime. Who's censoring us? Who's suppressing us? Who's calling us an enemy of the state, an enemy of the people, domestic extremists? It's this regime. So I'm sorry, but I got to call it the way I see it. The greatest threat to our rights and freedoms and security now comes from our own government and the Democratic Party. And this indictment is further example and illustration of this. Jim, am I wrong?
I agree, but it's not. You listen to CNN, they tell you it's the best. Biden's the best president ever, and the economy's doing great. And it's like, are you kidding me? I'm just listening to your story. I could tell you 20 other stories just like it. Everybody's heard them, but CNN, MSNBC say we're doing really good. And who's telling them to say that?
Well, the problem, Jim, is this. Who are you going to believe? Me or your lying eyes? And CNN now has, 500,000 viewers? Their ratings have completely tanked. So this is the problem they also have. Nobody watches them. Nobody believes them anymore. And so the reason why they're indicting Trump is they figured it out. We don't have the numbers anymore. We just don't. Trump has got an army of at least now 85 to 90 million. And I think now with this indictment, 100 million. So you look at Tucker Carlson here, he just goes on Twitter and he's getting 50, 60, 70 million views. 50, 60, 70 million. CNN can barely get 500,000 viewers. They can't even forget 40, 50, 60 mil. They can't even do 1 mil. So nobody watches them anymore because nobody believes them. And that's what happens when you lie, 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 lie. It's like crying wolf. Nobody believes you anymore. Jim, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. No, I think there's no question now. The great enemy of the American people is now this regime in the Democratic Party. And they can go on about Vladimir Putin till the cows come home. Putin does not threaten our rights and our freedoms and our security the way this regime in Washington does. There's no denying it. And this indictment is now proving Trump 1,000% correct. It's a witch hunt, and the American people are going to tell them blank off. So, okay, that's how out of touch they are. So we've got about another, 14 months to go, 15 months to go. But as things stand right now, the regime is teetering. And you've got a senile buffoon who's at the head of it. And Trump now, like a phoenix, is rising out of the ashes. And that's why they've got to put him in a bottle or behind bars. Because they know this phoenix is going to sweep them all into the dustbin of history. John in Peabody. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
America's pile driver, Boston's boulder.
John, buddy, how are you? John, can you get off speaker? Because we can barely hear you.
Oh, yeah. Hang on, Jeff. Can you hear me now, Jeff?
Yes, much better. Go ahead, John. Okay. The floor is yours.
Jeff, this Democratic Party, their agenda is not to ever have an election again. This is the final fig leaf. This is what they want. They want to eliminate elections. They don't want to ever happen again. But, Jeff, we got to look to say that we need someone to step out of the shadows who's got nothing to lose with the best lawyer that he can have beside him, he or she, and go after this regime tooth and nail. Either this person, I don't know, maybe they'll have cancer and say, I got nothing to lose. I got to go after them. And just start nailing them with indictments and subpoenas. And just, first off, their name will be a household name. They'll be remembered. They'll be protected. And the media will have no choice but to keep mentioning their name over and over again. But, Jeff, this is 7 years of WTF. You know what I mean? We can't. I've been listening to this far too long, and a lot of people who I know who listen to your show says that how much longer do you need to sit here and listen to this guy? You know, this endless crap that's going on. It's just we need someone to step up, Jeff. People say we have to step up. We weren't hired to do that. We elected people. We appointed people. We pay people to stand up for us. And we need someone to basically just stand up and finally do their job and beat these people and charge them with unconstitutional, indecency against society and just attack them tooth and nail.
I agree. Look, we got to take the gloves off. We are now in a political civil war. I mean, I hope it never becomes a hot civil war, an actual civil war, military civil war. But let's be very clear now. That's what these indictments mean. That's what all of this is culminating to. We are now in a political, cultural, civil war. And the other side is waging it with full, vicious ferocity. And the question now is, are we going to fight back? And I think that's the key to Trump. And frankly, I thought it was the key to DeSantis in Florida. They're the only two that I see that are willing to fight back. And I think that's why Trump is skyrocketing in the polls. Because he's the only guy, whether, you like him, don't like him, like his personality, don't like his personality, like some of the things he says, don't like some of the things he says. You go, hey, he's the only guy that's willing to go in the trenches and punch him in the mouth and take it to him. Kevin McCarthy isn't. Mitch McConnell isn't. Mitt Romney isn't. None of these other presidential candidates, they don't want to do it. Nobody wants to get their hands dirty. Well, the Democrats are getting their hands really dirty, and they love it. So the question is now, how much more are we willing to take? And what are we going to do? John, as always, thank you so much for that call. Okay, joining me now, as she always does at this time, Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Grace Voto, former nationally syndicated talk show host, political analyst, political commentator, my wonderful wife, my better half, and yes, I married up. Grace, how are you?
I am well, Jeff. How are you today?
Well, as you can tell, the Kuhner man's fired up. You noticed that from yesterday when I found out about Trump's indictment. I was not in a good mood yesterday, but that's okay. I want to ask you, you heard about the indictment. You've heard about the stories now saying Jack Smith wants to get him for January 6th. They want to pin seditious conspiracy on him, that he was the mastermind of an attempted coup on the U.S. government. What say you?
Well, Jeff, this is their plan to win the election, because look at it from their point of view. No matter how this goes down, they think it benefits them. If there is a trial and he is acquitted, still they keep in the headlines all the footage of January 6th, which they love to play on the mainstream media. They've been looping it for years. They also keep the issue alive of the election of 2020, where they think that's a winner for them. So whether he is acquitted or found guilty, they think for them this is an electorally winning strategy, and that's what it's about. Then they will be able to say the problem was too many people were turned off by his legal woes, and that's why he didn't win. So then they have plausible deniability to do that step as well. So all of these indictments are their famous insurance policies, and they've got layer after layer after layer of these insurance policies where we are always playing catch-up.
If you were Trump or you were one of his advisors, what's his, in a game of chess, what would you recommend, political chess, what's his next move? What does he need to do?
Well, he must cajole the Republican Party to stand with him much more forcefully than they have so far. This is his greatest challenge. Believe it or not, his greatest challenge is not the legal battle, because he can inoculate that. If he is able to convince the Republican Party in Congress and across the country, all the governors, to stand with him in a way that counts. In a way that counts. Remember, when the Alvin Bragg indictment came down, I said, look, they got a golden opportunity. They got to negotiate lifting the debt ceiling. Why don't you swap? You stop the indictments against Trump, and we give you the funds you need. But they never did that. So they've never leveraged the power of the purse that they have, and they have that power both federally and at every state level where there's a Republican governor. He needs to be on the phone with every single Republican lawmaker and governor to come up with a plan that stings the other side. And unless he does that, this election is over, Jeff. It's over. It's done. Put a fork in it.
Well, let me ask you this. The polls show Trump in a massive lead, not just against all of his Republican rivals, but also against Joe Biden. Joe Biden's support is plummeting. He's so bad now. I don't know if you saw him nibbling that little girl's shoulder arm in Finland. A creepy, strange, frankly sickening. His behavior now is becoming so disturbing. Nobody wants to vote for this guy. Trump beats him by 8 to 10 points, and these are mainstream national polls. This is CBS, this is NBC, this is Harvard, this is Suffolk University. So how can they somehow turn around and look at this collapsing presidency with the economy in free fall, with inflation raging, with crime out of control, with a border that's wide open, with a possible World War III in Ukraine, and Trump ahead 8-10 points in the polls, and suddenly on election night they turn around and say, oh yeah, Biden won again? This time he got 100 million votes? Like, do you think this is going to fly?
Well, we're still a long way off, because that's exactly the same scenario, the red wave scenario before the midterms. The Republicans were going to sweep to power. It was going to be massive. It was going to be earth-shattering. And what happened the day after? The press simply said, oh my gosh, there's Biden. He did rarely what an incumbent did. Oh my gosh, defied the odds, defied the polls. Jeff, you know as well as I do that there's so many narratives that can be crafted and recrafted to justify anything. They're not after the truth. Now, when you ask the question, is it going to fly like with the people? Well, the key question is, what have the Republicans done? What have the Republicans in Congress, done. Have they even impeached Mayorkas, which is low level hanging fruit here? Impeach the guy. They still haven't been able to do that to secure our border. Now they're talking about maybe impeach Garland, but they're having a big debate over it, and they cannot get on the same page. So Trump's only saving grace will be he must cajole every Republican in the country, every elected Republican, to stand with him and impose consequences on the other side. That is our only play and his only play.
God forbid your scenario plays out and they use the indictments as the fig leaf, as the excuse. Oh, the indictments, people were turned off by it, and that's why they all rallied around Biden. That's senile buffoon. What do you think the American people are going to do?
Well, this is why they think this is a master plan. They're unfolding now their master plan. This is their ultimate chess move, because from now until the election, they're going to be talking about 2020, and they're going to also be playing all the footage of the Republicans who turned against Trump in that period. Remember what McCarthy said in that period. What did Lindsey Graham say in that period? So they're going to play all that footage of the Republicans in a circular firing squad. And they're going to play current footage of Republicans divided, and they're simply going to transmit a narrative that Biden won because the Republicans were firing upon each other. They were not on the same page. They had a bad candidate. What did they do with the midterms? They said that Trump's candidates lost. That's the same playbook. For them, they have a winning playbook in what happened in the midterms. They're just going to replay it. Press, repeat, Jeff. That's all they're doing. Repeat.
No, I get it. But my point is they do it. Let's say they do it. Do you think the American people will put up with it? With this dictator in office, knowing everything that he's been doing?
People can only be rallied with effective leaders. The question, Jeff, is back to you. Who is going to lead the people?
That's the question. And maybe it's time for Kuhner Country. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, yesterday Trump announced the news. Special counsel Jack Smith, Biden's corrupt Department of Justice, has now threatened him with a target letter, saying that his arrest and indictment is now imminent over January 6th. Listen now to Jonathan Turley, professor, George Washington University, one of the leading legal minds in America, saying what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to criminalize Trump's speech at the Ellipse, claiming that he incited the breach of the Capitol, when in fact there is no other evidence that he masterminded, orchestrated, or engaged in any kind of a criminal conspiracy. So what they're going to have to do is try to take that speech, manipulate, contort, distort it, and try to paint Trump as the person who incited January 6th, even though, as has been said 1,000 times, he urged the crowd to peacefully and patriotically protest. Listen now to Turley saying, I don't know how they're going to pull this case off because the evidence is not there. Roll cut 15A, Mike.
This indictment, if there's one coming, could be so important. With Mar-a-Lago, those were classic types of charges, a classic built case. This one, they have to really stick the landing so that no one will question it, or few people would question it. That's going to require some very direct and strong evidence. We haven't seen that. So if Smith doesn't have that type of evidence and he's moving forward largely on the speech, then I think he will fulfill the narrative of Donald Trump. He will be the federal version of Alvin Bragg in bringing that indictment.
Bingo. They don't have because there is no evidence. Now, how do we know this? Because we had the January 6th Select Committee. And they poured over every document, every email. They interviewed everybody around Trump. They looked at every transcript. I mean, every minutia. And they couldn't find anything linking him to January 6th. So it's obvious they're trying to shoehorn this in order to get Trump. That's what this is. Listen now to Jonathan Turley, saying they're going to have to now so stretch the law that they're going to violate the Constitution and the First Amendment itself. Roll cut 16. Mike.
Smith has a reputation of stretching the criminal code, sometimes too far. This is not an occasion for that. If you're going to indict the former president over January 6th, you're going to need a lot of evidence showing that he was doing more than engaging in a political speech. In my view, what Donald Trump said in the ellipsis is entirely protected under a case called Brandenburg and the First Amendment. Smith is going to need a lot more than that speech.
Of course. Of course it's completely protected. By the way, there was nothing wrong with that speech. Nothing. So, to get Trump, I want you to understand now, this is now what the Democrats are inflicting upon this country. So now we're jailing our top political opponents? They're going to have to violate freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of expression. They're going to have to trash and destroy the First Amendment, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. All in the name of satisfying their bloodlust to stop Trump and ultimately, my friends, stop you and me. Stop the America First movement. They can't beat us at the polls. So now they got to start throwing us in jail. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Lines are loaded. Tom in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. 3-4 weeks ago, I called you and told you that President Trump, they're working to put him in jail by September. And that's what it looks like they're doing. And that the reason I told you that is that they don't want him to debate in the GOP primary. And the Republicans don't want him to be the GOP nominee. Now, the Republicans are driving this indictment. I told you that, but you don't agree. We disagree. The reason I say that, in June, the Republicans gave Biden the debt ceiling vote. A week later, President Trump got indicted. A few days ago, 70% of the Republicans voted with Biden on Ukraine aid. And a few days later, it comes out that Smith's going to indict him on the second indictment. If you notice, the Republicans have been out to get rid of Trump since 2017.
Yes.
They couldn't indict him as president. And now they're making deals with Biden to indict him. It's 90% of the Republicans. It's not rhinos. The spin is the Democrats. There's no way President Trump would be indicted if the Republicans said no. And that's why they're not impeaching Biden, because they make deals with Biden to get rid of Trump. So this spin about Democrats destroying the country, no. The Republicans are destroying the country on this issue, and no one will say it.
Well, no, but Tom,
And you won't
this
debate
is,
me.
no, I understand that, but this is where you and I disagree. Look, Biden is a Democrat. The Democrats control the White House. The Democrats control the Senate. Jack Smith is a Democrat. The Democrats control the DOJ. I understand the complicity of the Republicans. On that, you're right. But who's spearheading this? The Democrats. 617-266-6868 is the number. Vivek Ramaswamy, who, by the way, is doing very well in the polls. He's now cracked the double-digit mark. He's closing in on Ron DeSantis. Came out with this response to yesterday's news that Trump's indictment and his arrest regarding January 6th is now imminent. And I want everybody, whatever you're doing, please stop. You need to listen to this, because I think Vivek hits the nail right on the head. Quote, "The left calls January 6th a threat to our democracy. But the ultimate threat is when politically unaccountable actors literally remove democratically elected officials from office. That's why the pending January 6th indictment of Donald Trump is arguably the most dangerous of all to our constitutional republic. I believe the federal administrative police state is preparing to invoke the quote-unquote insurrection clause from Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to disqualify Trump from running in a way that past indictments technically would not. Now, Jack Smith, clearly, he knows exactly what he's doing. To give the devil his due, he's not a stupid man. He knows that by indicting Trump, especially in the way that he's doing it, he is doing immeasurable and irreparable damage to our country and to our republic. And I'm starting to think they want to bait us. They're trying to bait us, 75 million of us Trump supporters and voters, into doing something violent or into doing something that they can justify for a massive crackdown. And that's why I'm urging everybody, please stay calm, be civil, let's not resort to anything, because remember, for them to lash out at Trump like this is a sign of how pathetically weak and unpopular this regime has become. If they have to put Trump behind bars, what that means is they can't beat him in an election. 617-266-6868 is the number. And after this indictment, Trump's going to be at 100 million. We will be the biggest, most powerful force in the history of the free world. A 100 million person army. Susan in Winchester. Thanks for holding, Susan, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm just going to make this very quick. Merrick Garland, who is allowing most of these criminal indictments, needs to be charged with a criminal complaint from Trump's team. Not wait for Congress, but Trump needs to act on criminal charges against Merrick Garland, subpoena his phone records, subpoena the communications, get it on the table. Let's see who he's corresponding with, because all of this is pre-planned criminal activity to remove this candidate. And his rights, all of them, have been violated. Innocent until proven guilty. Merrick Garland has protected criminal activity in the White House since he's been appointed. He is the problem, and he needs to answer under oath in court for his actions. And the only one that is going to do it is Trump. So Trump needs to take his attorneys and file criminal complaints directly to Garland. That's what I wanted to say.
Susan, I agree with every single word, every syllable, every letter of what you said. I would just add this. I would make one slight addendum, one slight addition. You say they're violating Trump's rights. I agree. But the real crime, and I think the bigger one, is they're violating your rights. They're violating my rights. They're violating all of our rights. Because what they're doing is they're criminalizing us. That's what they're doing. They're saying the voice of the people, your voice will not be heard. And if that means suppressing you, if that means censoring you, if that means bullying or intimidating you, if that means branding all of you a bunch of domestic terrorists, then that's what we will do. So we got to remember, it's not Trump, it's us. By silencing him, they're silencing us. He is going to win the Republican nomination in a landslide maybe the biggest landslide in the history of presidential politics. And if it's a general election, as the polls show, he will annihilate Biden. We're looking at maybe 350, 400 electoral college votes. You win by 8 to 10 percentage points in the popular vote? Holy shamoli. So, no, they're disenfranchising us. And that's why we have to loudly and clearly tell them, blank off. The answer here is no. And we're going to come after you for abuse of power. Because this is clear prosecutorial misconduct and clear corruption and abuse of power. Thank you so much for that call, Susan. I really appreciate it. 617. Look, this stuff may fly in Putin's Russia or in Xi Jinping's China, but it shouldn't fly here in the United States of America. And no, really, and I got to say this, after when they issue the formal indictment on Friday or whenever it's going to come in the next couple days, I'm telling you, with the response from Moscow and Beijing, even the mullahs in Iran, you claim you're superior to us? You claim you have a free society? Right. You're a joke. You're a joke. As the president of Guatemala said, if I did to my leading political opponents what you're doing to Donald Trump, your State Department would call me a dictator and your State Department would impose sanctions. So I'm telling you, if the world wanted to impose sanctions on America, I swear to God, and said, no, you're jailing your leading candidate, you're jailing political opponents. What, you guys call yourselves a freaking democracy or whatever, a democratic republic? In good conscience, I couldn't say they're wrong. Now, let that settle in for a second. That's what Biden and his regime have done to us. And that's in 3 years. You give him another term, it's over. It's over, baby. Jack in Situate. Thanks for holding, Jack, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you, Jack?
Good. I'd like to say that I'm sick of January 6th. If January 6th, what about Portland, Minneapolis, and Seattle with 40 murders? Does this mean that Biden was an accomplice to 40 murders?
Oh, you're dead on.
Okay.
Or what about Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
When she put out that bail fund.
I just hearing nothing but January 6th, and I'm getting sort of tired of it. I want to know what has been done about those three states that nobody did anything while people were getting murdered and there wasn't anything burnt down on January 6th. Okay? And another thing, if China is such a force and they are our enemy, why, excuse the expression, the hell are we buying all our stuff from them? 85% of the things I get are from China.
Well, that's the thing. That's the corruption. You're completely right. And, look, Tom in New Hampshire is right. The Republicans, most of the Republican Party, is completely complicit in all of this. If they stood united against Biden and against this witch hunt against Trump, it would end. If they weren't complicit with communist China, if they weren't in bed with the globalists and the donor class and selling our country out for money, we wouldn't, as you're right, we would, everything we buy wouldn't be from communist China. We would keep the jobs and the manufacturing here. So that's why Donald Trump is such a threat. 617-266-6868 is the number. Larry in Boston. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Hello, Mr. Kuhner. Nice to hear your voice again, sir.
Nice to hear from you again, Larry. What's on your mind?
Okay, sir. What I wanted to say about the cowards that are supposed to be representing us, the Republican Party, they are a bunch of cowards, sir. And you know who they remind me of? They remind me of the movie In the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. If you remember Tuco, the guy that played the ugly, when he was in the room taking a bath, And you remember one of his past enemies came into the room. And this is how, I'm going to give this example because this is how they're acting. The guy walks into the room and he said, he started talking to Tuco. He says, you know, I finally found you and I'm going to get revenge. And then Tuco was in the bath and he pulls out his gun and he shoots the guy. And he says, you know something? If you come here, you don't come here to talk. If you're going to shoot, shoot. Don't talk. In other words, these cowards that, you know, they're supposed to be representing the, you know, the conservatives, sir, they're all talk and no action. And that's why we have this police state doing what they're doing. If they stood up and they did the right thing, we would never have any of these problems. McCarthy, the other one, McConnell, all these guys are just talk, and they're not doing anything, sir. This is the biggest problem. And
Larry,
this is why
you hit the nail right on the head. All talk, no action. You're right. McCarthy's got a big mouth, but he never does anything. He's the House Speaker. He controls the Republicans in the House. They control the House. You know, he doesn't like what Biden is doing, impeach him. He doesn't like what Merrick Garland is doing, impeach him. He doesn't like Chris Wray, impeach him. I mean, there's a million things he could do. Instead, he just flops his mouth and then goes back and does nothing. Because, Larry, the dirty little secret is most Republicans are just as corrupt and complicit as the Democrats. They're allowing this to happen because they don't want Trump to drain the swamp because they're part of the swamp themselves. Larry, as always, thank you very much. And please, don't wait so long to call again. Thank you, Larry. Brenda in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Brenda, and welcome.
Oh, that was just set up perfectly for me, Jeff, between you and Larry, and there was a previous caller around 9:30. I forget that gentleman's name. I'm with Larry, I'm with that gentleman, and of course I'm with you. McCarthy, oh my God, every time I hear his name, he's worthless. Oh, he comes out every once in a while. I call him like he's like a turtle boy. He pops his head out, see if the coast is clear. Then he comes, he does a little something, and people get excited. Oh, McCarthy spoke up. Listen, he didn't even defend Trump when we had this whole January 6th baloney. So let's remember that. He was nowhere to be found, okay? And then, he was all about himself, though, when it was time for him to become the speaker. And we had to watch that whole fiasco, like, what was it, 87 rounds? And then he finally became our House Speaker. He is not the man for the job, all right? And if you notice, it seems like a lot of the men, and I'm going to make a dig for men, not you, Jeff, but many men, not Kuhner country men, where are they? Like you just said, it's an incestuous relationship in Washington. And though the Democrats are bringing this to the table, they are presenting this because they hate Donald. I've never seen such hate in my life. They hate Donald Trump. What are the Republicans doing? They're sitting on their hands like they're always doing. They're twiddling. They're trying to leverage, how this is going to work for them and their career and their wallet and their this and their that. And then they come out and they'll say, "Oh, we're fighting for you." No, you're not. You're fighting for your own stuff. You're not fighting for us. And it always seems to be a couple of chicks that are on the front lines, the Lauren Boeberts, the Marjorie Taylor Greens. And I like to say some of the chicks in Kuhner country like Mags or Donna. I even like to say myself without even sounding braggadocio. All right. But we will go to the front lines for this. But our politicians, the so-called Republicans, they're like nowhere. They're nowhere to be found.
Brenda, you're on fire. You're on fire. The politicians in Congress and the men, you're right, the men in Congress, not Kuhner country, obviously, but the men in Congress, yellow-livered cowards. And just to prove your point, no male politician, no male Republican in Congress had the guts to say what Marjorie Taylor Greene. I want to play it again. This is Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene when she found out about Trump's indictment. Now, you tell me, name me one male Republican member of Congress, I don't care, senator or the House, who speaks like this. This should be the Republican response. Roll cut 10, Mike.
Yeah, it's absolute. Yeah, that's my reaction. This is the only way that the Democrats have to beat President Trump is to arrest him, smear him, charge him with ridiculous charges, all in a cover-up of Joe Biden's crimes, Hunter Biden's crimes. It's unbelievable. It's hard to even recognize that this is our country. The American people are going to be furious. And what Jack Smith is doing is the weaponized government. And he's weaponizing the Department of Justice against President Trump in a complete lie about President Trump and January 6th. And it's outrageous. I can't believe our country has to endure this. And I'll be standing with President Trump the entire way.
It's bull, you know what? It's bull crap. There, she said it. Drop the mic. Brenda, thank you very much for that call. By the way, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, she and Lauren Boebert, the only two introducing articles of impeachment against Biden. The only two saying, no, it's time to impeach his ass. 1 minute left. Okay, Sally in New Hampshire. Hate to do this to you, Sally. 1 minute. The floor is yours. Go.
I can do it, Jeff. I can do it. Miracle on 49th Street, I think it was, where the bags and bags and bags of letters from people all over the kids all over the world saying, I believe in Santa, and Santa was proved to be Santa. Why can't Trump, if he is indicted and if he's tried, why cannot...
Sally. I wish I need more time. I need more time, even if they indict him, even if they put him behind bars. Let's elect him anyway. And he can then pardon himself and give every Democrat the middle finger. Bye.